Thank you, Chairperson, judges, and audience. My name is Yuka Kimura, and I'll be the constructive speaker from the affirmative side. I'm really nervous in front of such a big audience, but I would like to trust all the practice and teachers and my team members. I'll do my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson and judges. Of course, opponent. My name is Fujishima. I'm a text speaker from the affirmative side. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm happy to have such a lot of audience in here because there's a lot of audience and a lot of friends which can make sense in this moment. So I'm happy to be here. So in order to introduce what like Japanese society or Japanese like working environment should be, I'd like to do my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, judges, audience, and Utsunomiya High School. My name is Kohei Azuma. I'm the defense speaker from the affirmative side. Right now I can hear my heart beating a lot, but I'll try my best to do what I've always been doing and make this debate a good game. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, judges, and the audience. Of course, my opponents. My name is Himeka Mori. I'm a summary speaker from affirmative side. I'm very nervous, but I'm so excited. I want to make summary speech which can tell how to change this Japanese working style. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now have brief introductions from the negative side members.
Thank you, Chairperson and judges and audience. My name is Koki Fukuda. I'm a constructive speaker from negative side. If you see me, you will find that I'm very nervous, but this is not only because I'm standing in front of many people and Fujishima is one of the most strongest school, but also I'm very excited that we can make great debates because yes, Fujishima is a very strongest team, so let's make good debates, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and judges, and the timekeeper, and audience, and of course, opponent. My name is Leo Kamakura. I'm the attack speaker for the negative side. So after this match, I want to make friends with Fujishima High School. So I would like to do my best, and let's enjoy this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Haruki. I'm a defense speaker from the negative side. I'm very nervous because I'm not used to use this microphone and speak using microphone. So unfortunately, the opponent is Fujishima High School strong team. So I'm very nervous, but to do my best, I make a great speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, judges, and timekeeper and the audience. Of course, my opponents. My name is Ko, and I'm the summary speaker from the negative side. And it's my honor to be able to fight against Fujishima High School because we are already like good friends, right? And after the match, we believe that we can become even better friends. And hopefully, we want to like enjoy today's debate because this might be our final match. So let's enjoy today's debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, judges, and audience. I'll start my constructive speech. My name is Yuka Kimura. 81. Reducing overwork death, present situation. Long working hours is severely damaging workers' health, mentally and physically. According to OECD, 22% of workers, which means about 15 million workers in Japan, are working more than 50 hours that is likely to cause overwork diseases. This number is 5 times larger than that of European countries. According to Kosorodosho, quote, severe working hours practically damage workers' brain and heart, unquote. That is why they can be the victims of overwork death. According to Kosorodosho, at least 2,500 workers have got overwork diseases. Too many people are deprived of their lives because of long working hours. Effect 1, plans adapted. 2, workers will have to leave their workplace earlier and they spend more time at home. According to my new score, 84% of workers feel stressed at their workplace, unquote. Since most people feel stressed at the workplace, going home earlier will directly reduce their stress. 3, overwork death and disease will decrease. Considering the data of the present situation, workers doing long-time labor are expected to be one-fifth of the current number after the plan is adapted. This means that 12 million workers, including 2,500 workers in danger of overwork death, will be saved. Importance. Those who are in the most terrible situation is overworking workers. Without realizing how dangerous it is to sacrifice their health, they will keep on working until they die. Therefore, this plan is needed to save them from overwork death, and this is the only solution. 82. Sustainable workforce. Sustainable workforce. Present situation. Japan is becoming increasing lack of working population. According to Social Quote, the number of working population has been decreasing in Japan, and in 2040, it is expected to be only 80% of the current number, unquote. Japanese workforce is unsustainable. In EU nations, each worker's job content is clearly defined. However, the main working style in Japan is membership type, which forces regular workers to do any kinds of jobs, including simple tasks like picking up phones. This is the biggest cause of long working hours. That's why companies in Japan are not effectively using non-regular workers. While the number of regular workers has been decreasing, more and more tasks are assigned to regular workers. Effect 1, plans adapted. 2, companies will have to sustain business within shorter hours, which means they need to make full use of both current regular and non-regular workers. As for regular workers, companies will focus on finishing tasks in working time. Since Japanese workers are obliged to meet the demands of their companies, regular workers will allocate work that they don't have to do. As a result, non-regular workers will receive work from regular workers. According to Koseda's report, only 35% of non-regular workers are getting proper amount of job and contributing to their companies, unquote. That means the rest of workers, which is 14 million workers, can receive more work from regular workers. 3, all workers will have proper amount and proper content of job. 4, using both of them, both regular and non-regular workers, the sustainable workforce will be created. Importance. Current Abe reform hasn't been making the positive changes in workforce. Because of a continuous decrease in working population, it is becoming impossible to keep up with the same demand under the current situation that depends on workers' long overtime with a lot of waste. The sustainable society is urgently needed, where regular and non-regular workers are effectively used. Only the government's powerful initiative can change companies as well as workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Ko. So let me ask you some questions. First year, 81. So you talked about like 2,500 overwork diseases, right?
Yes, and
So which year is this?
2019,
19? This year?
this year.
Okay. Thank you. And you talked in your effect about like 85% of workers feel stress at work, right?
Yes, 84%.
So what's the cause? How many of them say that the cause of this stress was long working?
They're annoyed with staying at workplace for a long time. So if we take this time, they can go home earlier and this
So
will
do
directly
that
reduce.
evidence say that this 84% of people are feeling stressed due
It
to long
says
working
that
hours?
84% of workers feel stressed at their workplace.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to your 82. So what do you want to achieve in your 82?
As we said in our constructive speech, the number of working population is decreasing,
So
and
do you
the
want
biggest
to
cause
do you want to allow companies to like change their working methods?
and the biggest cause is membership type, which forces any kinds of jobs to do, and
So why do we have to change that?
because if we keep on keep the present situation, we will keep on relying on workers regular workers overtime work, but the population is decreasing. So we can no longer only rely on regular workers.
So you guys want to say like the companies have to change, right?
Yes.
In order to survive.
Yes.
So we believe that if that is true, these companies will take some kind of action when they actually face problems like labor shortage. So why do the government
So,
have to intervene?
if we take this down, the working hour will shorter and the amount that they can do will decrease. That means they need to make full use of both current regular and
Okay,
non-regular
thank you.
workers.
One more question is that by like using these non-regular workers, can these companies maintain same amount of profit?
Yes, because now regular workers are doing simple tasks that they don't have to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Koki Fukuda. DA1, lack of medical service, lack of medical service. Present situation, the work-style reform has improved doctors' working conditions. 1. All doctors are obliged to take over 9 hours less between shifts. 2. Restriction was made on overwork. But still, Japan's healthcare cannot be maintained without doctors' overwork, according to Asahi Shimbun this April. MHW says, now 40% doctors, 80,000 doctors work overtime for more than 80 hours a month. So limiting doctors' work time decreases supply of medical service. For example, after the inspection by Labor Standards Office this year, Seiroka Kokusai Hospital had to stop standardly medical treatment in 20 clinical departments. Also, Kyorin hospitals had to refuse patients 12 clinical departments at night. Then many patients cannot get medical service. Effect. After one, doctors' work time will be reduced to 48 hours a week. This means overwork will decrease from 155 hours to 32 hours a month. Then the supply of medical service will greatly decrease. According to the simulation by Professor Yuji at Tokyo University Medical Center, if Japan introduces EU working hours, the supply of medical service will never meet the demand, because in 2035, the demand will increase by 38%. Even if we consider the expected increase of doctors by 46%, the supply of medical service will decrease by 28%. Then 650,000 patients with critical condition cannot get medical service. And MHW says medical care will break down in many parts of Japan. Actually, 60% of hospital directors say medical care in rural areas will collapse, according to Nihon Byoinkai this year. Importance. No medical service means death. In Saitama, one patient died in ambulance after being refused by 25 hospitals. Dr. Nakamura Tetsu in Afghanistan always said, saving any life, that's doctor's duty. To save 650,000 patients, to maintain medical system, we cannot have depending on doctors overwork. DA2, damage on companies. Present situation, under the work-style reform, companies have freedom to increase work time when necessary. First, research and development section can spend as much time as needed because their success decides company's future. Second, in busy seasons or after the heat of their products, company can increase overwork flexibly up to 100 hours. This freedom and flexibility is essential for success. For example, engineers at construction company Kyurenko overworked 100 hours in busy seasons, according to Nihon Shimbun this year. A watchmaker, Seiko, developed the first quartz watch by working late at night. This made Seiko the world #1 watchmaker and brought $700 million profits, selling 18 million watches only in 1 year. Also, Nobel Prize-winning medicine, Obzivo, was developed by long-time researcher Dr. Honjo and Ono Corporation. This brought 5 times larger profits to the company and gave a cure to 20 to 30% of cancer patients. Effect. By limiting overwork 32 hours a month, company will lose freedom and flexibility. First, development section will in trouble. In drug industry, for example, the first company that develops new drug can dominate 70 to 80% of the market. Winning this timeless decides the company's survival. Second, companies cannot deal with busy seasons and lose profits. According to the same agency in 2018, 11% companies achieved half of 1 year sales, and 38% companies a quarter of sales in only 1 month. Losing the freedom and flexibility is huge damage for companies. Importance. This freedom is important. Please margin. When we study for university, we never limit the time to study, because without passing exams, all efforts will become nothing. In the same way, without success, company will lose big business chance. We never say workers should overwork all the time. We say they need flexibility. Each company has its own strategy, so government should not intervene this flexibility. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, judges, and audience. I'll ask some questions. My name is Mika. First, I talk about DA1. Are you talking about doctor in clinic or big hospital?
Basically all doctors.
Okay, thank you.
At least we can see 6,000
thank you.
patients.
Okay. What kind of task are doctors doing in overtime?
Doing in overtime,
What kind of task?
we can see basically it should be all kind of jobs, all kind of work. We
Okay.
can
How many patients?
How
How many patients can be saved thanks to the doctor's overwork in present situation?
How many? Actually, we say 650,000 patients with critical condition can log in medical service.
Okay, you admit that doctors are working for a long time, right?
Actually, but we have a restriction of 155 hours, but there were no
Your
restriction
your
before
stance
lockdown.
is that doctor must and have to work in order to save patients.
But actually,
On the
we can
sacrifice
fight
of their health.
work-style reform. We can save both doctors and patients.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'll talk about DA2. How much? In overtime, what kind tasks are workers are doing?
D2.
DA2.
D2. Actually, there are two ways to make profit, and one is development section, and two is busy sales season.
Do company use workers sufficiently in overwork?
Actually, we showed example of construction company Kyudenko overworked about 100 hours in busy seasons, and Seiko developed the first quartz watch by
Okay,
working day and night.
how long are they doing overwork in busy season?
Busy season, but it's not little, but we say the flexibility to work up to 100 hours is important when necessary.
Profit of all industry will decrease. You think so?
Yes, big profit that could have gained will be lost.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Leo. First of all, I would actually 81. One, today's work-style reform is enough to protect workers' rights. They say 22% of workers work more than 50 hours a month, and 2,500 people died from the mental disorder and something like that. However, there are all of the defense evidence is before work-style reform, so that is why, in the first place, today's work-style reform, the profit working over close line 80 hours, and only in one busy month, they can work 100 hours according to MA's revenue. Almost all close last year was because of more than 100 hours overwork. So today's work reform can save almost all their target. Two, this plan is a rather harmful for workers because they have to do the same work in shorter time. According to ID media, after work-style reform, 68.90% of the workers say the amount of tasks didn't change or even increase. Then two types of harm will occur. A, worker will suffer from pressure. According to Sommelier, in 2017, 41.5% of workers suffered from the haste pressure from boss to finish the same task in shorter time. Because of this, pressure from workers committed suicide in 2017. B, some workers will start to bring back home, being afraid of they will lose their if they cannot finish their job. According to TUC, in UK, after 48 hours restriction started, overtime was increased from 7.8 hours to 9.4 hours a week. So that is why, if we take in this plan, most of workers cannot finish their task. So that is why such people will bring back their task home. In the first place, 3. We can say worker with mental disorder. According to MHRW, overwork most worker with mental disorder is less than 20 hours a month. So there is almost no relationship between the long working hour and the mental disorder. According to Dr. Watamiho, the biggest reason was the human relationship. 70%. So that is why, in the first place, present work-style reform is enough to save patients. Next, and moreover, they said 84% of workers feel stress. However, this is not long working hour. Nextly, I respect 82. 1. In the first place, we do not have to take this motion that because present work-style reform isn't enough. We have the alternative way to increase the productivity. 1. Introducing various IT such as email, ICT, robotic process automation, or AI using cloud service can raise productivity by 30% with a $3,000 a month, according to the Somsel. 2. B. Decrease unnecessary tasks. So that is why, in the first place, present work-style reform is enough to increase the productivity. Moreover, in the first place, we do not have to take motion all over the industry. That's because government has no legitimacy to take this plan for all industry. That's because as our DA2 clearly said, if we take in this plan, companies' flexibility, which increase working hour up to the 100 hours when necessary, will be completely restricted. So that is why, in order to maintain the flexibility, we must never take this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would like to start my questions. My name is Gohei.
Yeah.
So, first attack for the 81. You said that for work style reform is enough, right?
Yes.
And the work style reform can save people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next attack. You said that workers will do the same amount of work in a smaller, in a shorter amount of time, right?
So after taking this motion, the 2 times harm will occur. So A cases is there. So worker must finish their task in within time. So therefore,
Okay, thank you. Moving to the third attack, you said that in EU the overtime actually increased, right?
Yes.
Why would the overtime increase if there's a strong where the government will restrict all the companies? Why did this thing happen?
Pardon me, sorry.
Why did overwork increase in the EU? Did you give us any explanation?
That is because after taking this motion, the amount of tasks will not be
Yes.
never reaching. So
You talked about like workers brought their work home, right?
Yes.
It does that include like overtime that you're saying? So do you mean that overtime is like unpaid work in the house, in their homes?
So after taking this motion, the such worker will bring back their task home.
Oh,
So that
okay.
is
Okay, thank you. Fourth attack, you said that mental disorder has no connection with the long working hours, right?
even if you taking this
Okay.
current society.
And rather you said it was human relationship, right?
Pardon me, sorry. Yes, yes.
Okay, and also you said that the mental disorder didn't decrease, and you talked about an evidence. However, that's only the cases where the workers were diagnosed by the doctors, right?
Pardon me, sorry.
Okay, moving on to the attack for 82. So this is one attack for 82, right? The whole part you're saying that the productivity will rise because of the work time reform, right?
No, I have the 2 attack point to the IA2. One is in the first place, no necessity for the company to take this grant. That's because companies are profit seeker.
Okay. And then your second is the productivity go up, right?
A second attack point in the first place, government has no legitimacy to take this motion for all industry.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson and judges. Of first opponent, I'd like to start my attack speech. My name is Yuki. First of all, I will attack for a DO1. First of all, about your present situation, you cannot prove 1 point. What kind of tasks are the doctor doing in overwork in the present situation? Unless they prove this point, we cannot understand what kind of effect will happen just taking this resolution. Unless they prove this one, judges, please carry out. Next of all, attack 2, about your effect. They cannot prove 3 points. First of all, whether patients can be treated forever or not. And second of all, even if there are some patients who cannot be treated by the doctor, how much does it lead to severe damage for them? Unless they prove this 2 point, the quality of medicine will decline or not is quite a doubt for prejudice. Next one, attack 2. You say that now another doctor doing work for more than 60 hours or more. Okay, your target is limited. According to Ishiro report, 80% of doctors' weekly working hour is less than 60 hours unquote. In addition, according to Ishitenship Kinkyusho 2017, quote, 73.2% of doctors answer that they have a task of point to eat in Japanese project unquote. This job is to patrol hospital in case emergency occur. So following the definition, doctors who need to prepare for the emergency are allowed to work for 60 hours. So that's why your target is limited. Next, last attack for DU1. This is that more people cannot see the doctor. However, it's not true. There are 2 kinds of patients. 1, patients who need immediate care. 2, patients whose disease is not so serious. Well, first is, even after regulation, they are consulted patiently, since they are in emergency. And second of all, they will go big hospital or clinic. Even if they are not treated in big hospital because of this resolution, they have a choice to go to the clinic. According to Kosei Rodosho Code, the average working time of a clinic doctor is about 40 hours unquote. Therefore, clinic can afford to treat patients even after regulation. So most of the patients are treated easily. So lastly, that's why the DA1 doesn't start. Next of all, I move on to my attack speech about DA2. First of all, about your importance, they could not prove 2 points. First of all, how much company's profit will decline? We need clear number. And second of all, profit decline is like temporary or not. Analytically, 2 point, your importance is quite down to 2. Next of all, attack 2. Use that in the position, like overworking time, occupy the main source of their profit. However, it's not true. Overwork did not necessarily lead to profit for the company. According to Nikkei Stat 2014, quote, company which send from 35 to 50 hours overtime work to workers in a month after that, their profit rate is only 2% in an average, quote. From this evidence, we can say that assigning too long overtime work did not lead to profit. Therefore, overwork did not necessarily occupy the main source of the profit. That's why the students start. Next of all, you said that like busy seasons is important, however, your target is limited. According to Pastor Kenkyujo 2018, quote, only some industries like transportation, IT, and education industry, average monthly overworking time in busy season is more than 33 hours, unquote. Following the definition, workers are allowed to work by 32 hours per month, so this takes it out of the target. That's why the target is limited. Last of all, this a lot of companies developing products, however, your target is limited. According to Chishoki Yoshok, quote, only 1.4% of all companies are now starting and developing new products, unquote. Therefore, the target is limited. That's why the DX target is stuck. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Harik. I have some questions. First attack to DA1. In your first attack point, you said what kind of task doctors are doing. However, what do you want to say in this attack point?
Okay, in this attack, what we want to point out here is about where a doctor are doing consulting the patient in overwork or not. Because in this round, we have to talk about after the
Okay, then assuming that doctors are now doing paperwork in overtime, who will do this paperwork after ground?
So what we want to point out here is about where the doctor are doing consultation or medicine, some kind of task, which is collectively is patient or not.
In the end, the total medical service, the total tasks which can be done by doctors will decrease, even if you are saying this too.
So what we want to point out here is what kind of task. Here wants mainly talk about main point is about where or not quality of medical.
Okay, thank you. Then please summarize in your second attack point.
Okay, about the fact, we could not prove 2 points. First of all, where the patient cannot be treated for ever or not. And second, even if there is some patient who cannot be treated by doctors.
Then in your fourth attack point, you said on-call jobs.
So my
Fourth attack.
First attack, okay. So there are 2 kinds of patient. First of all, is about the patient.
Then three attack, third attack.
Third, okay. So your target is limited because 80% of doctors' weekly working hour is less than 60 hours. In addition, 73.2% of doctors after that they have a task to point to it in Japanese poshoku. So it's the emergency on call. So they're out of the target. They're allowed to work for the 60 hours.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Their target is limited.
Then moving on to DA2. So in your third attack, second attack point, you mentioned profit rate.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then please show me the evidence in your last attack point, our development section. Later, please show me this.
So in their argument, they said many companies are now developing new products. How your target is limited.
Okay, then please show me this evidence later. Thank you.
We will now have a 2-minute preparation time.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would like to start my defense speech. My name is Kohei. So, the first attack, they said that the work style reform is already able to save people. However, people who are really in danger right now cannot be saved. According to Kosei Rodosho, quote, overworking for 80 to 100 hours creates the most victims, which was 139 out of 192, unquote. The work style reform still allows workers to overwork up to 100 hours, as they said in their conservative speech. Therefore, the EU law is the only law that can save those victims that are now creating. And we can save the 15 million workers who can be victims at any time. Next attack, they said that workers will do the same amount of work in a short amount of time. However, actually, in the EU, after the regulation, workers had less amount of work. According to Cambridge Policy Consultants, quote, companies revised shift rotas and reorganized work, unquote. Companies adjusted their employees to sustain business within the shorter hours and at the same time protected the workers. And a similar case actually happened in Japan. According to Vincent, quote, Aseras, a pharmacy corporation, originally made regulations, not the work style reform, originally made regulations to eliminate all the overwork. Then work was allocated to those who were appropriate to do it. This action changed the company to raise the individual ability to work in a shorter amount of time, unquote. This clearly shows the process of our 82. Next, moving on to the third attack. They said that workers in the EU actually brought their work home. However, in Japan, there are countermeasures for companies to prevent the workers from bringing their work home. According to Songyue magazine, quote, companies make regulations for taking out workout and prevent the risk of information leakage, unquote. Also, even if workers bring home, according to the Cabinet Office, quote, in EU, workers work at home for 2 to 3 hours per week, unquote. Working at home 30 minutes a day only has a slight effect on the workers. Next, moving on to the fourth attack. They talk about how the mental cases doesn't connect with the long working hours. And they talked about the main reason is the human relationship. However, according to Fujishima, quote, human relationship was high in 2017, but it dropped 2 ranks in 2019, unquote. Moreover, multiple causes are combined with the long working hours. And the most serious point about the long working hours is that the workers don't realize it. According to Nikkei Sayoko, doctors say that most workers don't even realize that they have health damage from overworking, unquote. Staying in the workplace makes the stress without noticing it. If we don't take this plan immediately, workers will get serious health damage before they notice it. This plan is the only solution. Next, lastly, let's combine the 2 attacks for 82. The first attack, they said that the companies will eventually take our 82's process in the future. However, it will be too late. Now companies are relying too much on the regular workers over work, and they don't realize, despite the large number of non-regular workers that are not efficiently used right now, the government needs to give an opportunity for companies to revise their business plan right now in order to solve the problem of labor shortage and also the amount of workers in the future. All companies, not all companies, especially with low capital, we will not be able to increase the productivity as they said in the attack. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Haruki. First about D1, even if the first attack point is true, even if treatment is not done in overwork, other will be delayed, such as writing medical chart, and these writing the delay in medical chart will cause a delay of the treatment of patients. That is why what they say is completely irrelevant. Next, the seriousness of today's work, DA1. So in our DA1, 650,000 patients with critical conditions cannot get medical service. For example, even when you or your family are in an ambulance going to the hospital, there are no doctors who can treat you, just like the example in DA1, and you will die. That is like this. To prevent that, we must not take this one. Next, they said that 80% less than 60 hours. However, the evidence is in one prefecture, and we have counter evidence that according to MHLW, 40% of doctors exceed 60 hours working hours a week. That is why these doctors will be surely affected. And moreover, about on-call, even if the doctors are exception in our simulation, even if we receive 60 hours a week, 400,000 patients cannot get medical service with critical conditions. That is why even if the thing is true, we have still strong impact. Next, they said the immediate clinic and so on. However, in our evidence, we consider all doctors regardless of clinic or not clinic. That is why even if what they say is not so important, because concerning the whole Japan, we will lack 400 or 650,000 patients cannot get medical service. So next, DA2, about how much profit will decrease. So as we said in DA2, in the presentation, according to the SMA agency in 2018, 11% companies achieved half of 1 year sales, and 38 companies are quarter of sales in EBT season. That is why these losing freedom of flexibility will affect these companies. And a temporary one, this plan will eternally deprive the freedom of companies. That is why this impact is eternally continue. Next, they said about profit rate. However, the profit rate is not important. So if we multiply profit rate and sales, this will give the profit. That is why if the sales is decreased by the limitation working hours, profit will of course decrease. That is why even if what they say is true, this is not important. Next, about our target. According to SM agency, in PG season, 44.6% of employees work more than 45 hours of overwork a month. That is why these workers' working hours will surely limited. So we have still impact. Next, they said development. However, as we said in in DA. Actually, we have some development section, especially in product development. This is so. There are many development sections. For example, Seiko achieved $700 million profit by developing crosswords, and this is so beneficial for economy, and moreover, such as Obdivo is so beneficial for us. So this development of freedom to increase working hours is necessary.
We will now have our new speaker in Japan.
Thank you, Chairperson, judges, and audience. Of course, my opponents. My name is Let me start my summary speech. My name is Mika. Japan will collapse unless we allow Japan to continue current situation. Due to working style, Japan, this country, just force all citizens to work under terrible situation until they die. So we should focus current terrible working style in order to make Japan sustainable. First, I'll talk about AD1 and DA1 in terms of importance. Here's the reason why the DA1 doesn't stand. In the first place, doctors are not working more than 60 hours. It means that patients who will be affected is very small. Also, practical harm and specific harm is not, there's no specific harm. Difference between before taking this ban and after taking this ban is very big. Even now, serious situation is happening. They are doing this month. Considering immediate care and no serious, the two types of patients as our speaker talked about. All patients can be seen clinic and big hospital. Importance of life is equal. However, negative side stance is that doctors should and must work in order to save many patients. However, of course, saving patients is important. However, negative sides admit that doctors are doing overwork now, which means doctors are in serious situation. So all we have to save is our AD1 target. AD1 importance and seriousness is very high because worker will get overwork disease without notice. Before notices, it's serious situation. The most stressful thing for worker is staying at workplace for a long time. However, in Japan, it's difficult for them to leave workplace early. So this plan and government, it's only them to change this style. Next, I'll talk about AD2 and DA1 in terms of sustainability. Here's the reason why the DA2 doesn't stand. DA1, DA2 doesn't stand. In the first place, long time working doesn't mean high profits, as our speaker talked about. Even after taking this ban, company's situation won't change. Also, almost company don't do overwork more than 33 hours. So even busy season, so company's profits won't change. So impact is very small. Also big. Their DA1 is so big. Important point is that why will companies suffer after taking this ban? Why current situation is so unsustainable? We strongly believe that company are relying on only regular workers overwork. Company also, current problem is that there are many workers who are doing tasks which can be done by others. It's very big problem. Unless we change this situation, Japan will suffer lack of working population, and worker will suffer overwork forever. So if we take this ban, task will be reposted and allocated to each person to sustain business. It's only solution. So our AD2 can be solution of the DA2. It's only this plan that can change Japan sustainable. Use of 14 non-legal workers is necessary for Japan. All we have to do is think about how to make sustainable workplace. So we strongly propose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Ko. So 3 points I'm going to talk to summarize this today. First of all, why their AD1 will never going to stand. First of all, necessity. They talked about number of deaths and number of diseases, but as our attack speaker has clearly pointed out, and as we check, all of these evidences are before worksite reform, where there was no regulation at all. So that is why we believe that all the things that Haruze explained is completely before worksite reform. So that is why we say that worksite reform is completely enough. In terms of probability, as our attack speaker has pointed out, the amount of tasks did not change even after the worksite reform. Same thing will happen after this plan. So what are the cases that can be sought here? 2 cases. One is like that they have to finish it in short amount of time where they feel so much pressure and stress, and actually people are committing suicide due to that. Second, the case is unfinished work will be taken home. They say that the work at home is not so serious, but the fact is that total working hour does not change. So that is why we believe that their goal can never be achieved. So therefore, in In conclusion, 81's necessity and probability is none. Second issue about importance of medical care, considering our DA1. So the necessity of medical care is very simple. We say that every citizen in society have the risk to get diseases, right? And in the present situation, if we go to hospitals, we can get the proper treatment for us because the doctors are providing services. But what do this plan do is very simple. They just deprive these doctors to provide these medical services, and as a result, we have said that even if we consider about the expected increase of the number of doctors, still 650,000 patients with critical conditions cannot receive any medical care at all. They will suffer, they have no hope, and they might even die. And we say that it is completely unjustifiable to ignore such people who is demanding for help. And they say that it is unjustifiable to sacrifice doctors. But we say work-style reform is completely enough to protect these doctors. Why? Two reasons. First of all, 9 hours of rest is guaranteed for doctors, and even for doctors, 155-hour regulation exists. So therefore, we say that it is rather better to not take this plan and allow doctors to provide these medical services. Final issue about what do companies need the most. We believe that it is consensus in today's debate that both sides think about companies, companies' prosperity in the future, and they say that the changing the working methods is important, and they say that by taking this plan, these companies will depend on non-regular workers. But we say that in the first place, they say that the reason why companies change their mind is because they will face some kind of problems that they have to overcome. So we say even without this plan, when companies face such difficulties, they will make action to overcome such weaknesses. So we believe that there's no necessity at all in terms of AD2. So that is why, and at the same time, we have also shown many alternatives where companies can raise productivity. So AD2 is nothing. So what do we want the most? We say that is freedom of companies, which allows companies to be flexible. The point here is that workers do not work long every time, but there are specific seasons where workers have to work along. And this freedom and flexibility must be guaranteed for these companies' success and prosperity. So therefore, we oppose.
Hello. Hello back. I'm asked to make a comment very, very briefly. So I don't have much time. But I would like to make a comment nonetheless, even though it's a split decision. Two judges voted for one side and 3 judges voted for the other side. And those who voted for the negative side value disadvantaged ones value highly. They were convinced by the negative summary to the effect that we should not deprive companies' freedom to increase working hours and make profits because there are currently reforms underway, which is may not be enough, but coping to the situation to some extent. These people, judges, were disadvantaged. And those the others who voted for the affirmative side value advantage one highly. I think I'm one of those people. And I was made to compare between advantage one, advantage one, and I thought both good. And I had to compare the value, and the only value comparison made in terms of this point was only from the affirmative. So I decided that we should not sacrifice doctors to save patients' life. And so voting issues were different among the judges, and to come to the real decision, the real decision, those who voted for the negative were 3, and for the affirmative 2. So it's 3 to 2 to the negative. One quick remark about today's debate. I think the content of the arguments was very high, and very deep analysis was made. But one thing that bothered me was maybe it's also because of his microphone, but I think some of the arguments were not spoken carefully, maybe rushed with big voice and maybe too fast. So I would appreciate it if you would look at the judge, see if they're understanding. If they're not, slow down. Thank you.